How can we make the world better? By making ourselves better. The Dr. Joe Show explores how you can make positive personal change by using his groundbreaking and highly effective I Am approach to understand who we are and why we do what we do. Your small changes can have big effects.
Join us now for the Dr. Joe Show with Mark Stiles of Stiles Law and your host, Dr. Joe Schrand.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dr. Joe Show.
Nice. Really nice. So are you inspired tonight, Mark?
Very much so.
I am so inspired. Let's just get right to it, because we have our in-studio guests. We have Jim Wahlberg, who's here. Thank you so much for being here. We just saw If Only, this mind-blowing film.
Amazing.
About
production.
Adolescent substance use and the impact it has. I'm still feeling really very moved and very choked up by it.
Really well done. Yes. I mean, I haven't even let it kind of digest yet, because we literally ran from the production to the car to the studio, and now we have the producer sitting right next to us to talk to us about it. I'm very excited.
So welcome, Jim. We also have Tony is here. Tony, do you want to say your last name?
Yeah, last name is LaGreca.
Okay.
And that's where I met Jim, as I was one of the parents that was in the original movie, If Only.
Yeah.
And you would have seen my picture at the end holding my son's picture.
Yeah. It's just so powerful.
And I've seen the movie at least 30 times, if not more. And it still gets me every time I see it. Yeah, I know half the people that are holding the pictures. I know all the parents, and we actually grieve together in different groups, team sharing and Brockton Grasp and place in Kingston, Hope Floats.
Yeah.
Where the parents get together and discuss, what it's like to deal with it.
Yeah. So, Jim, welcome. For our listening audience and our viewing audience, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, but also about this film, If Only?
Is this live?
You bet it is. You are live.
I'm very nervous.
Yeah? You don't look nervous. You look great.
Well, first of all, let me just say thank you guys for having me, and thank you for taking the time to come over and see the film. Yeah, I mean, I'm a person in long-term recovery, and so this epidemic was sort of happening all around me, and I continued to hear about so-and-so lost their kid, so-and-so lost their kid, and it just it got to a point where, I had to do something, and I didn't really know what to do. Right, I could do what I do in my personal life, which is to try to carry a message of hope, but I felt like I needed to do something tangible. I needed to make some sort of a contribution to, at the very least, a conversation. And so that's how If Only came to be. My writing partner, Mike Yeber, and I got together, and we wrote the script over a cup of coffee, because we were very familiar with the subject matter, very familiar with sort of the people. All the people in the film represent actual people for us.
Yeah.
And so we wrote the script, and I brought it to one person. I brought it to a guy, Howard Appel. He was at the time the CEO of a urine testing company. I guess it's probably not the technical term for it, but that's the business they were in. And I asked him, I said, I need some money. I want to make this film. I want to tell this story. And I gave him the script. And what I did, as sort of a marketing person that I am, I did some brand integration into the script. I put their name in the story. In this story, mom takes her son to get a physical, and she asked the doctor to drug test him. Something's going on with my son. I don't know what it is, but he's acting very different. And in the original script, the doctor says, absolutely. When he calls to give her the results, she says, are you sure? And he would say, we use the best lab in the country, blah, 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 right? And the guy said, he said, I'll give you the money to make the movie if you do me one favor. And I said, what's that? He said, will you take our name out of the script?
Wow.
He said, that's not important. What's important is that we need to have this conversation, and we feel like you would be a good person to start the conversation. And so we set about, we totally guessed on what we thought it would cost And of course, we went over budget, which is, everybody does. And, we came to Massachusetts, which for me was a very special opportunity. It was special for me to be able to come here and to do this, to tell this story with people that didn't need a translator when I spoke.
But this is home for you.
Yeah, this is home.
This
right?
is home.
This is home. And so, we were blessed to be able to shoot almost the entire thing in Tewksbury, a great town with great people who really rallied around us and rallied around the importance of the subject matter, right? Because, 5 years ago, this thing was still it was really just starting to get going.
Yeah, that's right.
At an outrageous level. And there were no communities left that hadn't been affected. If I was 5 years earlier, I probably wouldn't have been able to find a place to shoot that movie, right? But now, at that point, there were no communities that were unaffected. Everybody knew somebody. And they opened their doors to us and really, gave us their time, their treasures, and their talents. They gave them to us. They gave us the school. The custodians, I'm not sure if I still owe them money, but they never asked for the money, right? They said, well, you got to pay the only people you got to pay is the custodians. They're in the union. They got to get paid, and you're working on the weekends, and they're going to pay them overtime. And, I don't remember the two custodians' names, but if they walked in here right now, I would absolutely know them, and it's been 5 years because they were so kind.
Yeah.
Right? They were just they were watching. They were involved in what was going on, and if we needed anything, they were on it. And I like to think that I didn't cheat anybody out of any money. I like to think that they decided that one was going to be their contribution.
Right.
And a lot of people gave a lot of their time. And my dear friend Mark Ginsberg from Tewksbury is a guy that he's a very successful business guy, but you would never know it. He's a super humble, generous, kind, quiet guy who just knows everybody in town. And he was the guy. He started talking to people and asking people, and he got us the church, he got us the priest, he got us the school, he got us the doctor's office. He fed everybody for free. Right? He owns a country club, a little small 9-hole course, public course, and he made all the meals every day and gave them to us. And he doesn't have a family member that was lost to this. He doesn't have a family member that's addicted, right? But he takes being a member of a community very serious. It's real for him, right? Everybody talks about being part of a community. This guy takes it for real, right? And he's constantly giving to his community. And without him, I don't know where we would have went. But he got all those doors open to us. And then, I tell the story at the screening tonight that, we said, okay, now we'll show the movie. We made a movie. We got to show it to somebody, right? So let's see what happens. We'll make an announcement. We're going to show. We got to go back to Tewksbury, right? Because they did all these great things for us. We went right back to the school, and they have a huge auditorium with, I don't know, it fits a couple thousand people, 2,000 people. And the night came, and more people and more people and more people and more people kept coming. And, what happens is you think right? I thought I knew when Louise Griffin said, 500 families want to show up and be part of this film because they had a loss. And I thought I knew. And then, you go and you think, a couple people will show up, the people that are in the movie. We'll get a couple hundred people. It won't look so bad, right? We'll keep them down the front. We won't let them do it like they do it at church. Everybody sits away from each other. We'll get them down the front, and it'll look fine. And there wasn't an empty seat.
Wow.
It wasn't an empty seat. And it really, each thing that happened was so meaningful to me, because it just spoke to the magnitude of the problem.
Right.
It just continued to make it clear. I thought I knew, but I really didn't know.
But not just the magnitude, but the people are now more willing to actually talk about it. Because for so long, this was all in the shadows. Nobody wanted to talk about this. People denied it. There's an old saying in psychiatry: denial is not just a river in Egypt, right? I mean, and yet now with people like you, with other people saying, we're gonna do something. Look how many people are willing to come forward to help. It's time.
Well, probably, aside from like my children and a few other people, this film is one of the things I'm most proud of. Not the actual film itself, right? The movie,
right?
But the fact that these families came out and found each other. I'm telling you, 250 individuals walked into that church.
Humbling.
And a family walked out of there.
Amazing.
Like they came together in a way that was powerful.
Yes.
And, I talk a lot about Louise Griffin, and her son was Zachary. He was 21 years old when he passed, and her inviting these people and this network. But somehow the local newspaper found out about what we were doing. And when I say somehow, I don't know. I attribute it all to God. That's my thing, right? The local newspaper found out what we were doing. They got a copy of Louise's email inviting people, and they printed it in the newspaper. And quite a few of the people that came were not people that were connected through any kind of resources or anything with Louise. There were people that read about it in the newspaper and felt like they had to be there because they needed to be around people that knew what they were feeling, right? Because, the loneliness and the despair, right? You can only imagine, right? And they came, and there were people there. So we shot that funeral scene. It was January 25th. So it was exactly 1 month after Christmas. There was a woman there who came downstairs on Christmas morning to find her son overdosed. And then there was another guy there that came down to find his daughter just a week before. So literally, his daughter dies. 2 days later, he sees it in the newspaper. And he said to me, I don't know why, but I knew I needed to be here. I needed to be around people that knew what I was talking about, that had a sort of an understanding, excuse me, of what I'm going through.
Yeah.
When you have that feeling, which I've had, you want to be with other people that you can communicate. The most important thing about grief is action. And you want to do something and be part of something to get the message out immediately. And that's what I found. And to give you a little more footnote, I found out about the movie from the mayor of Brockton, because I was running one of his GRASP meetings, which is called the Grief Response After a Substance Passing. So we had a pretty good-sized group.
Was that Bill Carpenter?
Yes, it was.
Oh.
Yeah, he was terrific.
He was a great man. Miss him.
Bill worked with us endlessly. We did vigils. He put it together. He organized it. And there was a woman there who did a lot of, Mrs. Sandoval did most of the work with him. But we were a caravan in a blizzard driving from Brockton to Tewksbury on the worst weather day of the year up until that point. We didn't even have a winter until that day, and then
2.5 feet.
Yeah. And we were up there, and those big snowflakes, that's not digital recover, that's real snowflakes,
No, it was such a powerful scene. The whole movie was, it moved, and there was the arc to it, starting here and talking with the mom, it was powerful. Did you choose the name Isaac for a reason? I mean, Isaac from the Bible was going to be sacrificed by his father Abraham.
Yeah, I know the story well.
Yeah, it's just powerful.
I don't believe in coincidence.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. I am a strong believer in God incidents.
Yeah.
So in my co-writer, who, so how we work together is I tell him a story, right? I give him the broad strokes. This is going to happen. This has got to happen. This has got to happen. And then he's the creative guy that brings it all to life, And he's just another guy like me with, he's got no education. He's a street guy, a knock-around guy who's a guy in recovery himself, and he just writes the way real people express themselves. He just has a way about him, and so quite possibly that could have been going on in his right. psyche, or it could have been planted there by.
That's right. And there's this scene that we were just talking about, the funeral scene, and real snow, and all these people. And Tony, you wanted to mention something because you were there too, right?
Right. Yeah. We. I mean, in my case, it was less than 8 months where I'd been at my own son's funeral, and some of this, as Jim mentioned, there are a lot of people, hadn't even had the funeral yet. It was only 2 or 3 days, but we had to do about 6 takes for that scene, and the priest couldn't quite get it right all the different times, but to see the coffin come in and go out and come in and go out was the most heart-wrenching thing, because everybody that was in there brought back very vivid recent memories, and that was the toughest thing one of the toughest things I ever did.
Yeah.
It was hard to watch on film.
It
much
was.
less be present for that.
And then Jim, when you were doing the intro to the film, you said that was a pivotal moment for you as well.
Well, it was, as I said earlier tonight, and I've said pretty much every time I've shown the film, the thing is, we write this script, somebody gives us the money to make the movie, right? And you go and hire all these people, they're your team, to make the film, and in my role as the producer, I'm sort of in charge of all those people and worrying about these people and their money, and I truly kind of lost sight of what we were doing in that moment. It was a lot of moving parts, and when they started to bring that coffin down, it became painfully real again. There was no distractions anymore. There was no sort of worrying about the words came out of my mouth. I don't care how long this takes now. Now, what do we do? What do we do? Do we hug? Do we talk? Do we somebody tell me what to do? Because I honestly didn't know what to do. And we've traveled with many of the people that were in that room, in that church that day. We've traveled around the country. We did an opioid youth summit in Manchester, New Hampshire. We had 10,000 kids. And the parents from Massachusetts came. And then we went to, did you come to us with the DEA headquarters?
We were at the Songa Center too.
Yeah. Did you come to the DEA
I went to both of them.
We were asked by the DEA to come to D.C. to their headquarters to show the film. And they have a theater inside their building, and we showed the film to about 1,000 employees, agents, secretaries, every job, every position, but they also streamed it live to all the field offices around the world.
Wow.
And we brought, I think, about 50 parents from Massachusetts, and my friend will get very upset, but my friend Mark Ginsberg, I talked to him about it, and he was like, okay, what can we do? How can we get them all there? They should all be there. How do we make it work? He bought everybody a flight. He bought everybody a flight. And they came, we went, and the thing about law enforcement, I had a lot to say about law enforcement tonight, as I do on most occasions, because I'm just in awe of their willingness to look at this thing in a different way. Just a completely different way, right? Because their job is to arrest people and lock them up if you're breaking the law, right? And now this thing has touched so many people in such a deep, sad way, right? That they've been able to just look at it as like, this could be my family next week, instead of we got to lock these people up.
Right.
And this really, I think, is part of the change. I'm not exactly sure why the change is happening, but it's happening. One of my phrases is, addiction is not about morality, it's about mortality. It's just the way the brain works, and being able not to medicalize it, because we don't want to create this model where there's a disorder. I don't like the word disorder at all. I don't use disorder, because disorder means you've got one group that's ordered and one group that isn't, and then we're astonished that we have stigma.
Right.
So you've been doing this. What do you think it is? Why is there this movement now? Is it because people are... What do you think? Why now? Why is it happening?
I want to speak to that, Tony, first, if you don't mind, just because I want to say something. I want to say that this is different than just a bunch of people that are addicts, right? And I don't even know what the politically correct term is. I'm not much of a politically correct guy, right? People, young people, old people, senior citizens, people who have never exhibited any kind of addictive nature whatsoever in any way were turned into full-blown addicts in a very short time by these pharmaceutical companies, right? They changed the game and they changed the face of addiction, okay? They conspired against us to fill their pockets with money, right? So this is a very different thing, you know, that a lot of these young people, like, I got started when I was a kid, man. I had my first drink when I was 8. I was hanging in the street, homeless at 12, right? I was out there, right? And so it wasn't like hard to see what was happening with me or where I was headed, right? But we're talking about young people that had no, great young kids,
young
smart,
athletes,
beautiful,
or getting their tooth pulled.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you guys, I'm going to get to you in a moment, Tom, but do you know the numbers from 2007? CDC put out the numbers, and this is the thing where maybe it started. They took all the prescription pain medicine, right, and converted it to Vicodin. So all the Percocet and Oxy and everything said, okay, we're going to call them Vicodin equivalents. Enough Vicodin was prescribed in the United States in 2007 so that every single one of the more than 300 million people could have 5 milligrams of Vicodin every 4 hours for 3 weeks. Every 4 hours for 3 weeks. And another way to look at it, Vicodin is about 7 millimeters long. You take Vicodin and you stack them end to end. That amount of Vicodin would reach from here to the moon and back and 3 times around the earth. That's what was going on with the pharmaceutical companies. And, you know, we were, as a physician, you know, we were culpable as well in our own way. I hope innocently. But, you know, somebody comes in, you know, from a sports injury, and you write them, you know, 30 Percocet, for God's sakes. You know, or somebody's getting a tooth pulled. Yeah, you know, here's 30 perks.
And then they sit in the medicine cabinet in the bathroom.
Like in the movie.
Right.
Like in your movie. They sit there in the But, wow. So, Tony, well, you were going to say...
Well, I could go many different directions, but if you look at the deposition that Maura Healey did with Richard Sackler. Richard Sackler was the CEO of Purdue Pharma, the maker of OxyContin and oxycodone. They're based down in Stamford, Connecticut. He said back in 1997 or 98, he said that when the people get addicted, we'll just make them out to be scoundrels and abusers of the drug. And he wrote that in emails.
Wow.
And when people say, when the doctors ask you if it's addictive, you say less than 1%. Because Jeremiah Jick did a survey for 10,000 people in 1980, and it went into the American Medical Journal. And he said less than 0.3% got addicted. Well, that test was only for 3 days, and those people were all hospitalized.
Yeah.
Little different, you know.
Little different.
And so, and I don't think the stigma is over yet by any means.
Not. No,
because now, I think though what's changing is we have all these lawsuits, all the publications are coming out. Everybody's now understanding that this whole epidemic started because of too many prescriptions. And people say, oh, it's coming down. Well, in 2018, we wrote 288 million prescriptions for opioids. In 2019, we wrote 244 million for opioids. I just got my knee replaced 8 weeks ago. They kept pushing and pushing and pushing. Oh, you need to get this. You need to have this prescription filled. You're going to be in pain. Well, pain isn't so bad. You can't get opioids in Germany. You can't get your wisdom teeth out in England and get opioids. It doesn't happen. They give you ibuprofen and ice and send you home. You know, and we brainwashed our doctors, thanks to Richard Sackler. Brainwashed them. Send out sexy women and sexy guys to talk to the doctors. Give them incentives like write so many prescriptions and get a bonus. Go to the Caribbean and do a speech in front of you and your wife. You know, those are the kind of things, and that's been finally changed. And I want to point out, President Obama did not even mention the epidemic until his very last year of his presidency, his last year. And the only way that happened is we were on the White House lawn and we sent him 5,000 signatures. And he finally mentioned it in one of his last Saturday radio shows that we had an epidemic in America. Mm-hmm. And that was it. Now, usually an epidemic is spread by a disease, but this epidemic comes in a little bottle from Walgreens, CVS, and Rite Aid. And that's the difference. And it can be stopped if we just don't write so many prescriptions. Mm-hmm. There is a place where it's needed. When somebody's got cancer, severe injuries, not a broken toe. And that's what the problem is. Because the federal government was judging people. Because so many of the senators and the congressmen were getting so much money from the pharmaceutical companies, they supported all that. And that's what we have to turn around, is the stigma thing is still very bad.
So it's been politicized, you think? I mean, is that part of what we're saying?
Absolutely. Right now, we have about 5 good bills sitting in the Senate, and Mitch McConnell won't even let them come to a vote. And these are bipartisan bills to help stop the epidemic. We have a bill that the 2 senators from New Hampshire put in, and that bill says that if you're an athlete and you're in high school and you get an injury and the doctor prescribes an opioid, they're going to have to show you a letter that this is an addictive drug, and the parent has to sign off on it.
Yeah.
That's just the rough estimate of the
bill. In Massachusetts, you know, one of the things that prescribers are being told is you're not going to be allowed to prescribe opioids and benzodiazepines like Valium, Xanax, without getting prior authorization.
Well, the combination will kill you.
The combination
instantly.
can kill you. That's right. And of course, now we've got fentanyl as well. Because remember, folks, you know, once a doctor stops prescribing the prescription pain medicine, doesn't mean that your desire for it goes away.
Right.
No.
And now you're either buying it on the street, and now we're getting all this press stuff, so it's not even real perks. And that's when it's getting even more dangerous, because more and more people are going out there, and they're using. I want people to understand that they're not using to get high. Most people are using to not be sick.
Right, dope sick is the big thing that they're trying to avoid being dope sick, and that's the big thing. We had one weekend in the greater Brockton area about 2.5 years ago. We had 22 overdoses, and all of them were young men, all between age 22 and 30, and they all got the same heroin batch with the fentanyl in it. Yeah. And the fentanyl was enough to kill an elephant, and they all died. And that was on one weekend. Now, here's the thing to show you we're not over the stigma yet. We had like 15 people die from vaping. And the amount of time that they've spent on vaping, we've had people dying in the last 3 hours. Yeah. And they don't even talk about it like it's an epidemic. Think about it. Every single day in this country, we have 130 to 140 people die. Well, if you look at that, let's say 2 airplane crashes, right, 270 people. Well, we have 2 airplane crashes every 2 days. And why aren't we doing something immediately? Trump said it was an emergency. Well, where's the emergency? You know, when is somebody going to call out and say, this is an emergency and let's stop it? You know, last year we talked about triple E. 4 people got triple E and died. Whoopee-doo. Not as bad for those people, but at the same time, 4 people died every 5 hours in Massachusetts. You know, you got to be realistic about the numbers.
But now there are people who are stepping up and finally saying something. You know, High Point Treatment Center, you know, they've been doing substance use treatment long before it was sexy to do. And that's part of my concern as well, is this going to be just another fad, as opposed to people realizing this is real, folks, and we need to address this now. What's the response been like? You've shown it now, if only, and other films too. I mean, this isn't just a one and done. We were very honored just a few weeks ago to have Cheryl Buchanan and Stephen Kennedy Smith on, and some of their folks from
Those are my friends.
From in their shoes.
Yeah, those are my friends.
Which is also, an amazing thing. So
Yeah.
so you it seems, is this your mission now to?
Well, yeah, I mean, I just in the screening, I talk about that day when I met these people, and the guilt of thinking that I could just walk away, right?
We're talking about back in that funeral scene.
Back in that funeral scene, back 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a person that's been clean and sober for a long time, right? And on an individual
But
basis.
can I just say congratulations, because that's
Right.
not easy. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and you deserve to get some acknowledgement for that. That's
I'm not
pretty
gonna
impressive.
stop you from acknowledging it. I just
Well, let me
I don't
acknowledge
know.
it, Jim.
Well, it's cool. It's all good. I always feel a little weird for finally doing what I'm supposed to.
But I just want to point out one small thing. You're in recovery,
Yeah.
which is not the same. Some people say they're recovered.
Yeah.
Or I'm recovering.
Yeah.
So these three words. So recovery. Can you just real quick? What recovery for you?
For
Why
me,
recovery and
today,
not recovered?
my recovery is contingent on my spiritual condition today.
Okay.
Okay, so although I have 30 some odd years of experience, it's all about what am I doing today?
Yeah.
What am I doing today to be of service to others? What am I doing today to have a connection with the God of my understanding? And do I have my hand out? Do I have my hand out to the next person? And at that point in my life, I might have had my hand out a little bit, to this guy over here because I really like him, or to this young lady here because I really like her, or I know her, or they're from my community, or whatever. But at that time when so much was going on, I just felt like I got to be able to do something. What can I do, right? And I had no idea that it would be what I ended up doing, right? Because, again, my goal was, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make this movie, start this conversation if I can, I give the movie to them, and I'll go back to my job. And I felt like if these people can get out of bed, get in their car, drive, some of them 3 and 4 hours in 2.5 feet of snow, right, to help tell a story and to help people acknowledge that this thing is real and that their family was as important as anybody else's family, and they're never going to have their child be at another Christmas or another Thanksgiving or another anything else. If it was important enough for them to do that, then it's important enough for me to try to do more, right? And I didn't make any commitment that day other than I'm just going to say yes. Whatever you want of me, I'm just going to say yes, and then I'm going to figure it out. Because I'm going to be honest with you, and only some of the people in the room will identify with what I have to say. People that listening might not. Every bit of my fiber wants to say no. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be in Marshfield in the cold. I want to be home. I live in Florida. I want to be home, laying next to my wife, getting ready to go to bed. But I only made the commitment to say yes. And I learned that from other people. That's all. I just watched them do what they do and watch them say yes, right? I had to learn how to do that. And I just said, I'll just say yes and then figure it out. And most of the work is done by somebody else. Most of the work's done by Ashley back here. I say yes, and then I go ahead and make it happen, Ashley, because I don't know, how to make that happen. So it's more of a group effort than it looks.
But you know what pops into my head, because I'm a psychiatrist, I can't help this. How many times had you said yes from the age of 8 on? Yes, I'll do this. Yes, I'll try that drug. Yes, I'll try it. And now it's a different yes. I mean, there's a different power to this word than there was before. And this is more folks than say, just say no. It's not that simple to just say no.
Yeah.
So that yes now takes on a whole other meaning for you than it did before. I mean, what do I know? I'm just meeting you.
Well, I've had some great examples in my life of people that said yes. I was in prison in Massachusetts. People say, well, their addiction, they lost a weekend, they lost a month, they lost a summer. I lost the 80s, right?
And can I just jump in? Because I hear this, and don't take, I say to people, don't let anybody say, look what you lost.
Yeah.
You gave it away.
Yeah.
And you're taking it back.
So in the space of yes, I was in MCI Concord, and Mother Teresa came to the prison that I was in.
Whoa.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
And that was her message, was her yes, right? It was just the yes. And I mean, that one singular event absolutely changed my life. Not so much at the moment. I was completely moved and blown away by what I was in the presence of and who I was in the presence of, and really felt like I was seeing God. But in hindsight, looking back over my life, I know today without a shadow of a doubt, she was sent there specifically for me. Right? God, I think God was showing off that day. He was like, you're not listening. I keep trying to help you and push you in the right direction and pulling you towards me, and you're not coming. So I'm going to show off a little bit. I'm going to send my number one assistant to that prison, right? And it changed me in a way that no other thing has ever changed me.
That's an incredible story.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you so much for sharing that story. I mean, this is powerful. So, what now?
I have no idea. We just, what now?
Yes.
So we got a few things going on. And again, I say we like I'm not like there's more than one person living in my head. There's a lot of people around me that help me to try to make the most out of this little bit of time that we have to try to make a difference. So right now I don't know, about 80% of the way of writing a book. It's done. We're going back and forth editing, and the publisher has got it. And so I just feel like I think my story is a story that people can relate to, and I think that I'm just hoping to translate that need for us to say yes, right? And to just, I mean, that's how you have to have the opportunity to be of service, but it starts with saying yes. People say, will you help me do this? Will you help me do that? I always want to say no. You call my wife right now. She'll say, hey, can we go to the park? I still say no, even though I want to go to the park. Something inside me just wants to say no, right? And so it's work for me sometimes to say yes. I have to get the word out before I can think, right? And then I have to figure out how to follow through with it. So I'm writing a book. We just finished another film on addiction, and it's my first. It's a faith-based film on addiction, so it's a different it's a different journey for the people and the family that's involved. And I did both that film and the book I'm doing with Our Sunday Visitor, which is a Catholic publishing company out of Indiana. And Cheryl was here, Cheryl Buchanan, and so we have the documentaries out, and we're actually taking another look at the documentary. We have some interest from some folks in Hollywood. They have some interest in the documentary, and they're, most people in Hollywood only like their own ideas. So they have some ideas about what it would look like if we cut it another way, and maybe they can find a home for it. So we're excited about that, and, we're just trying to show up.
There's so great a need for this.
We need more treatment centers. We're going to get lots of money from these lawsuits. Like Oklahoma's already got $575 million. Well, we got to make sure that we don't make a bridge with that money. We got to make sure it goes into recovery centers somewhere. And we got to people have to be in recovery for it's actually the rest of their life, as Jim said. It's every day the rest of your life. But to really get cleaned out and get your mind going in the right direction, it takes 6 to 12 months minimum.
Right.
And then you got to understand that it's an everyday process, every day. Because I, as a bereavement facilitator at Hope Floats, I've heard so many times, my son was clean for 2 years, and some event happened, and he went and he got back on it, and he died that day.
Yeah.
That's the thing that you have. That's when a tremendous amount of deaths happen after they've been clean for a year or two.
Yep.
That's why they say, Jim said, it's a marathon. It's the rest of your
right.
life.
It's a marathon,
you
not a
have
sprint.
to think about
Absolutely.
it. You know, I'm actually a long treatment with GA, Gamblers Anonymous, and since 1978. And I go to Las Vegas to work, which I'm going to Saturday. And I mean, I can't even look in a casino. If I look in a casino, I actually have an anxiety attack. So I have to stay away, and it's like the same thing the rest of my life. I can't play a poker game. I can't do anything because I'll go right back into it.
And now we're looking at internet addiction and all of these other things that the kids are now, I mean, it's a struggle. It's amazing.
A struggle is really, I know you don't mean it this way, but it's such an understatement.
I agree.
It's like,
yeah, you're right.
You're home, you're
right.
in your house,
Right.
you have parents that love you, that care about you, that teach you right from wrong, right? And then they go in their room. They don't even go outside. They go in their room. They pick up this thing, right? And
Pointing to his cell phone for those on the
and,
radio.
Yeah, for the people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like at warp speed.
Yeah.
Right? The exact opposite of what the people that love you are telling you. The exact opposite information is coming at you constantly, constantly, all day long. I don't know, man. We need to communicate with each other, right? So it's not like I'm not inventing a wheel, right? I feel like if we're talking to each other, we're communicating with each other. If kids feel like they can talk to their parents about these difficult topics,
So important.
right? And if parents feel like they can talk to their kids, parents are. So many people are so much more worried about the fact that whether or not their kids like them, right? If they're the cool parent, right? Then, are they having a real relationship with them? Are they,
Right.
Are they doing their job?
Are they
right?
talking with each other,
Yeah.
not just to each other, not just at each other, but with each other?
Yeah.
And for parents out there, this is one of the most important things that I think we can give you as a message, is if you want your child to be able to come to you with anything, you must not get angry when they come to you with something that's going to freak you out. Don't get angry. That will just shut them down. You got to be able to recognize that secrets aren't secrets because of what we've done. Secrets are secrets because we worry, how will someone judge me if they know my secret? And if your child feels enough trust to share their secret with you, that's where you want to be. That's where you want to be with your kid, because then you can have that discussion, you can have that relationship, and that could be life-saving.
When I was a kid, there were, and I made a lot of bad choices in my life, but there were so many different types of organizations around, right? Places for kids to go to be sort of safe, right? Like I remember we were involved with the Boys and Girls Clubs of America, we were involved. They had a 3 to 10 p.m. campaign, right? Those are the hours that kids get in trouble. Those are the hours when their parents are still at work. Many parents have to work more than one job, right? So I think about places like that and people, the kind of people that I know, like my buddy Mike Joyce, who's been at the Dorchester Boys and Girls Club for 40 years, right? He dedicated his life, right? And so many kids that were taken by folks and shaped and pushed in the right directions. And when they say it takes a village, right? Nowadays you can't. When I was a kid, my neighbors all had permission to put their foot in my backside if I did something wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Now you can't do that. You can't even speak to another person's kid. It's the end of the world.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like there's so many different places out there that are underutilized, right? Like the Boys and Girls Clubs and different organizations, after-school programs, mentor programs, churches, synagogues. I feel like we need so much more of a contribution to this conversation from our faith leaders too. I don't think we're getting it, and I think, to me, it's critical. It really is. So I know there's so much more to be done. I think.
That's a whole nother discussion. Is why you think we're not getting that message from the faith leaders.
I don't know, man. I can't speak to every faith. I can speak to my own faith, and that's why I went out and made my first faith-based movie, because I really felt like they weren't saying anything. There wasn't like, I didn't feel like they weren't talking about it in church on Sunday. I wasn't hearing it. I wasn't hearing the message. I hear it now. I hear more now in different parts of, I go to Catholic Mass. In different parts of the Mass, now I'll hear the mentions of addiction and brokenness and things of that nature, right? But I didn't, through this whole epidemic, I wasn't hearing it, unless I wasn't listening. That's always possible, right? But I wasn't hearing it. And so I felt like I was nudging people from my own faith to do more.
What about this idea of brokenness? Because you know, one of the things that we talk about here is called the I am approach, where nothing's broken, where we're all doing the best we can at every moment with the potential to change, and we just need to figure out why we do what we do, to wonder instead of worry. You're influenced by your home, the social domain, which is the rest of the world, the biological domain of your brain and body, and something we call the I see. How do I see myself? How do I think other people see me? And these four domains interconnect. Because they interconnect, a small change can have a big effect. You don't need to change everything. So I'm going to ask you, for our listening audience, what small change do you suggest they could make so they don't go down this path? What small change are you suggesting they could make? And then, Tony, we'll pull that over to you, too.
Well, again, we've talked a lot about communication here today, right? And that's my lane in doing the work that I do, is trying to start a conversation, right? If two sides can have this one thing in the middle that helps them to facilitate that conversation. Have you ever had that experience? Have you ever been around? Has anyone ever offered you anything? You know, you can come and talk to me, right? What did you think about the way that parent handled the situation? And what did you think about the mom that was like, no way, no how, no chance? Right? My home is perfect. Which there is no such thing.
Just so people understand, in the movie, it was wonderful to contrast these two parents, you know, and the denial in one, and the desperation in the other, and the guilt and the shame and the blame. So the small changes.
So I'll say this: I don't think either parent in the film loved their children any less. Right.
Absolutely.
They were just, the parent that was in denial is just in denial. She's just fooled by the fact that her child had everything they could ever want. Right? And I'm sorry, but I'm not sure that's how it works. Right? So I feel like if we can create an environment where we can have a conversation, and parents can stop being afraid of their kids. Right? It's really mind-boggling to me. And I guess, you know, I think I fell into wanting to be popular with my kids too, right? Because I think back about my own childhood and how I didn't get along with my dad and how I'd never be like that or never be like him. And so I think sometimes I went overboard to make sure that my kids liked me, right? And I think I made some mistakes along the way, you know, and I've learned from them.
So I want to get Tony, can I give you just real brief, because then I'm going to come back to Jim. What small change can you recommend for our listening audience?
I'd like to tell you that I speak to a lot of the kids who get sectioned. They go to the county prison, and they're locked up, but they're not criminals. And I always like to tell them it's time now to reflect. You're going to be here for 30 or 60 days. And this is the big thing, is everybody needs to take a time out once in a while and then ask yourself, who am I? Why am I here? And what is my purpose? And if they ask those questions to yourself every day, I think you'll find that you'll be able to deal with life a little bit better. And real quickly, I always ask the guys in the section, how many people did it take to get you here? And they tell me 2. And how about them? 4. And it goes to 8, then to 16. And I say, you know, you go back 6, 7 generations. You know how fortunate you are to be alive? It took 700 and something people for you to be born. And you think those people would be proud of you now? You're a representation of 750 different forms of DNA. And then I teach them to get out in the yard and do some meditative walks.
And thanks, Tony, and Jim back. So the other rule of the I am, everyone's got an I am everyone's interested in what you think about them, which means you control no one, you influence everyone. What kind of influence are you hoping to be?
What kind of influence am I hoping to be? Well, I mean, first I want to influence the people closest to me, right? My family, my children, right? I want them to understand that a life of service is a great life. It really is. That it ain't all about stuff, right? So I want to influence them. And then in terms of bigger than that, I don't know if I could think that big. You know, I really can't. I just want to, I guess I want everybody I come in contact with to get that same message, right? That living a life of service is a good thing, you know?
You control no one, you influence everyone. You get to choose the kind of influence you want to be, folks. I just want to thank you guys for coming in. Jim Wahlberg and all the work you're doing for everyone. And Tony, thanks so much for being here.
You're
Ashley,
welcome.
Couldn't do without you. Everybody, thanks so much. We'll be back next week with the Dr. Joe Show.
Rush with madness, is it sadness or just a show?